Hi, I'm Mark Bunker, and this is Aaron Smith-Levin, and that means it's time for Dining with the SPs. Today we're at Tequilas. It's not a new restaurant, it's a new location for this restaurant. I've actually always enjoyed Tequilas, which used to be on Fort Harrison, across the street, kind of kitty corner from the Fort Harrison Hotel.
I'd never eaten at the previous restaurant, but this is my second time eating here. It's always busy. The food's fantastic. The reviews are
here
excellent.
comes the food.
Here we go. They call it the loaded queso.
Now, I, of course, always go for the least healthy thing on the menu, so I got myself a chicken chimichanga.
So in addition to several new restaurants opening up here downtown, there's been a lot of new developments on the campaign and lots to talk about.
Well, first off, thanks to all the great support from those people who have volunteered to help with my campaign. We got my name on the ballot, so thank you out there to the Bunker Brigade for all of your assistance. Now it's been a seemingly endless round of meeting department heads in the city, getting a chance to sit down and have any questions answered, find out how I could best serve the people of Clearwater and work with their department. So that's been a fascinating time. I did have a chance to have a really nice discussion with Kevin Dunbar, who is head of Parks and Rec. We talked for like an hour and a half.
Wait, didn't someone in Parks and Rec just get fired?
Yeah, that would be Kevin Dunbar.
Oh no!
Because pretty much as soon as we finished our conversation, he was canned. But there had been several scandals involving Parks and Rec over the last few years, and he was on the hot seat already. He seemed like a nice guy. He certainly did seem like he accomplished a lot here, but it was a scandal-plagued department.
Yeah, one of his juniors had stolen a bunch of money, like $100,000.
Yeah.
And it was clear there was a lack of oversight.
Right.
I don't think anyone accused Kevin of being complicit, but the lack of oversight in that department was a bit startling.
Yeah, but it was very odd to have a meeting with the guy, go home, look at the paper and see, oh, he's gone. You know? But yeah, I've had some really fascinating conversations. And from time to time, as things normally do when I start yapping, the topic turns to Scientology. And I am really taken by how people in the city government really worry about the Tampa Bay Times coverage. And
what do you
think
mean?
that this is a problem, that people aren't coming downtown because of the bad publicity from the Tampa Bay Times stories about Scientology. And I have to keep pointing out, it's not the stories that are the problem. It's what the Tampa Bay Times is reporting that's the problem. And yeah, they see that. But
you know, that's so funny because that sentiment that Tampa Bay Times talking about the problem is the problem.
Right.
You only hear that from Scientology and from some people in this city. I've literally never had a citizen of Clearwater complain that they just wish the Tampa Bay Times would stop talking about it.
Yes. In fact, when the Scientology put out their Freedom magazine and handed one to virtually every citizen in the city, they had that big old article about how the real problem to downtown development is the Tampa Bay Times. And I remember saying at that point, literally no one outside of Scientology believes that to be true.
Right.
But it turns out I was wrong. And I can understand their concern in the city. But really.
Well, let's play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
How is that an understandable position? Like, even if we disagree with it, what is that opinion?
I think the opinion is, what can we do about it?
What do you mean?
You know, Scientology is here. They're not cooperating. We have to get on with our work developing downtown, whether they're here or not.
Oh, I got it. So if you can't fix the problem, why keep talking about it?
Yeah, why talk about it?
Oh.
Why scare people away?
Oh.
I think that is wrong-headed. I think the city, I think the people of Clearwater would like to see some action taken about Scientology, or at least not just roll over and take whatever Scientology deals out to us.
Huh. Well, maybe one of the differences why it's so hard for us to kind of understand where they're coming from is you and I don't think there's nothing that can be done about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I was making a point today at one of my meetings about how we have to actually ask something of Miss Cabbage that he owes the city. It's the presence of Scientology for decades now that has depressed business downtown.
That's true. I mean, they don't concede that, but
Oh, of course not.
Right.
But I mean that's the truth. And we need to have them put a good faith effort in to show that yes, they can be a partner. And that's why I'm encouraging David Miscavige and Tom Cruise to go ahead with their plan to bring in a large movie theater chain and bring it downtown here to show that they can do that. Because that will draw people in. People love movies. I know we drive quite a distance to go to the theaters that
I drive 25 minutes to go see movies.
I'd love to have an AMC or whatever chain it is right here in downtown. And then, people always enjoy dinner and a movie.
Right.
So that would be a huge help to showing that it's safe to come downtown and Scientology can do something positive instead of just scaring off all these chains. And if David Miscavige and Tom Cruise cannot convince a movie theater chain to open up here, then what chance does anybody else have to get over this Scientology hurdle?
So you sort of, let's say, asking that of him, almost daring him to do it, basically.
Yeah.
Is it something you believe they ever would do?
I would like to think so. I doubt that they will, but it's going to be important to ask. If we're going to sit down and talk with them,
Right.
we have to be upfront and say, look, you are creating this problem. You have to be part of the solution.
Right. What if they come back and they say, well, hey, we throw a giant free street party right in downtown Clearwater once a quarter. We're doing everything we can. You're the problem, City of Clearwater. You're the problem. How do you respond to that?
Say, well, people don't want to come down to a Scientology event,
Right.
but they would love to come to dinner and a movie.
There you go.
So contribute that way.
Right.
And if they don't want to, I mean, if we can't shame them into doing the right thing, there's always the backup plan,
Which is?
I mean, if the stores and businesses are going to be left undeveloped, we need to start fining the owners of the buildings, give them daily fines until something is actually put in there that will add to business downtown.
Right.
And we also really desperately need to talk to the federal government and explain why Scientology doesn't deserve the tax-exempt status.
Right.
And that, I think, is key.
Right.
I mean, that would help Clearwater immensely by bringing back some tax revenue to the city, because we are subsidizing Scientology.
Right. So for the viewers,
Yes.
I'd like to add my 2 cents, with the caveat being I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Just random people like us on the internet imploring the federal government or the IRS to revisit Scientology's tax exemption we don't really have standing to make that request. But if you're elected to the city council, you're an officially elected representative of the city of Clearwater, you actually have standing to make that request and to not shut up about it until something happens.
Yeah,
This is one of the reasons.
I won't be silenced.
Right. This is one of the reasons it is so important to have you on Clearwater City Council. The people of Clearwater can demand Scientology's tax exemption be revisited, but they don't actually have a voice unless they have someone in the city government willing to be their voice.
Right.
And it's not just enough to complain about Scientology or however people would like to characterize what it is we do. We actually want to get something effective done.
Yeah.
We actually want their tax-exempt status revoked until the day comes that maybe they can actually prove they deserve it. But that day is not today.
No.
That day is not today.
They got a lot of time to work on that one.
Yeah.
They got a long way to go to prove that they actually deserve it.
Yeah.
But they existed for many, many decades without the full tax-exempt status. It wasn't until '93 that they had it. So if it's revoked, which is doable, they'll survive.
Sure, I believe they will actually, yeah. And, it is an interesting dichotomy that the Church of Scientology is both, at the same time, the single largest taxpayer in downtown Clearwater and the single largest drain on tax revenues for the city of Clearwater. And Scientology only likes to talk about the first part.
Right.
We pay more taxes than anyone else in downtown Clearwater. Yeah, dummies. Because you own all the property, but you only pay taxes on 18% of it. And so there was a public forum recently for all the candidates running for council. And, if it weren't for a question I asked, the entire forum would have gone on with nobody even mentioning the word Scientology. And so I said to everybody, this is a question for any of the candidates brave enough to answer it. Mm-hmm. I said, and just that, I said, Scientology is both the single largest taxpayer in downtown and the single largest drain on tax revenues. They pay taxes on 18% of their property, but they keep buying up all of the property. If elected to the council, what would you do to push back against this hostile invasion of downtown?
What will you do to push back against this takeover of downtown Clearwater?
Woo! That's a brave one. I don't think any...
And honestly, if it weren't for your presence in this race, I think they all would have dodged the question.
I think that you can make that case, yeah. We, just by being in the race, we're forcing this issue to be discussed.
Yeah.
And it certainly helps that the Tampa Bay Times has been breaking important stories on this topic. It seems like at every turn, Tracy McManus, the reporter, has had another amazing story about how Scientology secretly bought up most of the remaining property downtown and have not said who actually owns it and what their plans are for it. That's kind of an important, those are important questions to have answered.
Hugely important.
Before we do anything else, we should know what the hell's going on.
Yes, I think this is a serious concern, obviously. And the city pretends that they can be a partner with Scientology, and I don't believe that that's the case. Every time the city tries to work with Scientology, they get stabbed in the back. Always. And now we just heard from the Tampa Bay Times recently about the secret meeting that was held with the city manager and the assistant city manager and the city attorney. 2-hour meeting to redevelop a relationship after David Miscavige cut off all ties with the city 2 years ago in a snip because he wanted to buy a piece of land for a pool, for a condo, and we wanted that land for the park to redevelop downtown. And because he didn't get that piece of property, he cut off all communication with the city and then viciously attacked David Yates, the head of the aquarium, for daring to sell the property to the city instead of to them, and launched this secret campaign to buy up all the remaining property, even when it wasn't for sale, sending people in with LLCs and big bags of cash to buy it at some properties that weren't even on the market for double or even quadruple the price. And nobody knows who owns the property or what is going to be done with those properties.
You're right. If it wasn't for us, everybody else would have skated, or many other people would have skated. I got a survey in the mail from Frank Hibbert. It's one of the candidates for mayor. And one of the questions asked in that, and in his cover letter is, what do we do about Scientology? Do we work with them to improve the downtown? Or?
Yeah.
So
It's incredible. I think it is incredible that there was like 2 or 3 questions
yeah.
relating to Scientology that Frank Hibbert put on his questionnaire that he sent out to, probably everyone in the city.
And other candidates also at the forum were bringing up the fact that, yeah, it's a question that they get asked all the time by constituents. When
Right.
you're going out meeting people, knocking on people's doors,
Yeah.
they want to know.
Inevitably, Scientology comes up. What are you going to do about Scientology? What are you going to do about downtown? And let me tell you, it peaked the Monday after Tracy's article, and when the Church of Scientology put out their magazine, which was on that Monday. And so knocking on doors that week and the months after, it's been right up there at the top.
Scientology isn't my only issue, but
Right.
because it's been something that I've been speaking out against for 20 years, trying to help people who've been abused or defrauded by it, it kind of comes up. And people are excited to know that somebody is willing to say the word
Yeah.
and try to do something about this.
Yeah.
So if we get the word out, if we actually are able to reach enough people in the city, I think we stand a good chance of winning and making a difference here.
Absolutely. And before we forget, and before we finish our meal, I want to make a quick plug for fundraising for the campaign.
Oh, yes.
You told me a little anecdote a couple weeks ago. You were having lunch at a local restaurant, and one of the staff there came up to you and said, "You look a lot like Mark Bunker." And you're like, well, that's good, because I actually am Mark Bunker. And he was a big fan of yours. He'd seen all your videos and everything. And yet when you told him you were running for city council, he had no idea.
Yeah.
And that's someone who actually knows you and cares about who you are.
Right.
And this is the thing about creating awareness, is that it's hard. It's difficult. You have to repeat a message 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind me talking dollars, I know that your consultants had told you that a well-funded campaign that would allow you to do sufficient marketing in this town would be $50,000 over the 6 months of the campaign. And I think the campaign's only raised like $10,000 so far, right? And I know our videos get a lot of views. I know it's very easy for anyone watching anything like this to go, I don't really matter. They're probably doing okay. Everyone else is probably donating. But it seems like that's what everyone must be thinking. Because if everyone who watched this video donated $10, we'd be able to handle all of the marketing, all the Facebook, postcards,
Right.
Yard signs, whatever it is.
There's a lot that we need to do.
Yeah.
Direct mail like Frank Hibbert did.
Yep, exactly.
That's going to be an important element, and that does cost a lot of money.
It does.
I'd like to see us being able to do radio and TV ads.
Yeah.
Airtime costs a lot of money. And I think we can generate a lot of interest to bring media attention to the race as well.
Yeah.
But dollars and cents important for any campaign.
It really is. It sucks to have to ask for money, but this is politics. People should understand that. You don't pull a single dollar in quote unquote salary or anything. In fact, you're not even allowed to.
Right. We have a bookkeeper, CPA, who handles all the funding.
She works for dollars. Even the consultants are working for a surprisingly low fee, and we don't even have a campaign manager. We're not even paying a campaign manager. Okay? Any money we raise for the campaign is going towards marketing, and we really, really need it.
So, if you would just go and look at the link in the description of the video and click on that.
Yeah.
It can take you directly to the donation page, or just go to the website markbunker.com.
There you go.
And you'll see the big donate button right there as well.
There you go. It all helps. It really does.
Absolutely. It's imperative.
Mark, what did you think of the answers that all of the candidates gave to that Scientology question? In general.
In general, I was happy that they all seemed to believe that it was an issue, except perhaps for Dr. Bob Kunda, who didn't seem to be terribly concerned.
The city manager, assistant city manager, and city attorney met with Mr. Miscavige in order to try to develop trust. And if there's no trust between either side, either the city of Clearwater or Church of Scientology, there's no sense asking that question because you won't believe the answer. And so the goal of that meeting was to try to establish a foothold of trust, which I hope happens because we would like the Church of Scientology to help us develop downtown Clearwater. They are a partner. Whether we designed it that way or not, those are the facts on the ground. And so I hope we can trust them, and I hope they can trust us. We will not always agree with them. Me personally, I don't know why Scientologists believe what they believe. I don't have that much faith. But they are free to believe whatever they believe. I'm a firm believer in the First Amendment. Lifetime member of the Sons of the American Revolution. And I believe we must keep a watchful eye continually
This may make you want to have a drink.
On their actions and do what we can legally do and stand strong as a city, as a city council.
And the Spanish guy seemed to ignore the
Alicio?
question completely. In his favor, I don't.
Right.
I mean, he really did dodge the question.
All my life, I whenever there's forward momentum that is about ready to happen, there is a divider that comes, them and us. Always comes up, them and us, to separate and to stop that forward momentum. We have a beautiful city. The potential to be great is there, and we need that by starting the conversation. I have the ability of bringing people of differing thoughts and opinions, different backgrounds together and find that commonality, that thing that we can all agree that if we work for, we all win. Sometimes it's a small item, but it's essential that we start that process of becoming we, us. And when we do that, we are powerful. Elect Eliseo Santana for C2 and you're going to
He didn't answer the question at all.
Most of the candidates gave good answers. They were not afraid to acknowledge that Scientology is a problem. And that's why I was so, if it were not for your involvement in this campaign, none of them would have even had to give a second thought to how they were going to answer such a question. Because nobody asks it.
Well, Tracy McManus sent out a questionnaire to all the candidates about how we plan to deal with Scientology. So it'll be interesting to see how other candidates responded to that.
Yeah. What are the actions that you think need to be taken?
Well, first off, we can't be afraid to say Scientology. We have to acknowledge that this is a problem downtown. But I'd also like there to be somebody in the government who understands how Scientology works. Mm-hmm. So if there is a problem like the sexual abuse lawsuit, mm-hmm. If there were victims of fraud and abuse in any way, then I could get them to the right person to help them, mm-hmm. whether it's the FBI or the police or attorneys that may be able to help them out.
Right.
But acknowledge that there are things that Scientology does that do need to be addressed. And Scientologists are told it's not safe to turn to anybody outside the internal justice system.
Right.
I don't know. I think if we can get the word out that there is like an underground railway where we can help you if you need help.
Absolutely. And in some of our earlier videos we discussed Chief Slaughter, the chief of police, mm-hmm. and an apparency of having a too cozy a relationship with Scientology.
Right.
I know he has walked that back recently, but this thought just came into mind because you mentioned someone in government who understands, And it's like, even though I know that Chief Slaughter felt like he was being treated unfairly, just think about it. You've got the chief of police being friendly with an organization who has a policy of never reporting any crimes to the police unless it's by a non-Scientologist. That alone, see, and again, in his defense is he doesn't fully understand that, or at least didn't. I mean, fully understand that.
Yeah.
He might have heard people say that, but how does he know how does he really know? He doesn't really know. I think he does now. Because if you're responsible for enforcing laws in your city, and you know you have a massive organization in the heart of your downtown that has a policy of literally never reporting crimes to the police, you would never be caught cozy with that. Don't you think? You think I'm being too generous?
I don't know. I think it's easier to turn a blind eye. I will say this in his defense. He's not on the take. He's not. I don't believe the police department is corrupt. I believe they find themselves in a situation where they just don't know where the evidence is. Mm-hmm. So it's like if the FBI raided the desert compound when Mike Rinder was sleeping underneath the desk in the hole. If the FBI raided that place, smashed open the doors and said, you're free, come with us," members would say, "No, I want to be here. This is my religion." Because you've got the blinders that you put on yourself. And if no one is willing to come forward, it makes it impossible or very difficult to enforce any law. And talking with the police, the question that I hear from them is there evidence? Is there evidence that we can access? And try to explain that, well, yeah. I mean, auditing folders would have plenty of the details about some of these abuses.
Yep.
And those things have been turned over in court cases. But it is tough. Just if people aren't willing to step up and don't have evidence that they can supply, you feel kind of lost and hopeless. Mm-hmm. But you can try harder, and that's what we need to do. Too many excuses, too many reasons.
I agree.
To just to say, well, let somebody else deal with it.
I agree. Oh, one other thing I should clarify. Some viewers might be confused about. There was an article recently in the Tampa Bay Times talking about how, I think 4 of 7 members of Clearwater's downtown development board are Scientologists. And I got a lot of messages from people saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that Mark Bunker lost." This is one of the problems that reporters like Tracy have is, even when Tracy does a fantastic job reporting on things accurately, mm-hmm. it can be so easily misunderstood.
Sure.
The Downtown Development Board is not the city council.
Yeah.
And there was another article about a young man, I guess in his 30s, named Morton Myers, mm-hmm. who's running for mayor. And he said he's not a Scientologist, but his father's in the Sea Organization and 2 of his brothers are in the Sea Organization. Now, even I was like, yeah. Morton's not a Scientologist the way my brother-in-law is not a Scientologist. Whereas he's literally not a Scientologist. But because of all the pressure from his family, he has had to disconnect from me and my wife and my kids because his parents have said they'll disconnect from him, his wife's parents have said they'll disconnect from him, and so Scientology still controls his life even though he's not a Scientologist. Yeah. And that's how I felt about Morton Myers after the newspaper article. And there was nothing wrong with the newspaper article, it just laid out the facts.
Sure.
And yet, at the candidate forum, when we posed this question about Scientology, I'll be goddamned if Morton Myers didn't stand up and make it very clear he is not a Scientologist. I mean, he said some shit. that even an undercover Scientologist could never say.
All right, here goes nothing. I don't know if you guys read an article about me Tracy wrote. I thought it was a very fair article. You got past that title. The title was tough. I think if you look at the city of Clearwater, and you look at downtown, what you have is a mess. You have a mess of past councils. You have a mess of past planning, and everything that we've done in the city with the Church of Scientology has been a disaster. You've had a group down there that has a bigger budget than the city. All right?
I was just going to say.
That article stated I'm not a Scientologist, which I am not. Yes, my parents are. So I come to you with a different outlook. I can understand a lot of what they're doing. I can understand they've been chased after and done their secret thing. But I also can understand that if we give up on downtown, we let it go, we all lose. Everyone in the city loses. We're going to lose that. And they'll take it, and because they don't have to worry about our agenda. What they have to worry about is their agenda. What we have to do is have someone that can get to the negotiating table. We have to have someone that has a deeper, broader understanding of what they want. I'm not saying I have that. I'm saying I have a little more than most people. I grew up the S word. Man, that was the scariest word of my life. Try growing up with your parents were Scientologists. Your parents worked for L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, it was never an easy thing. What I can say is I've gone out and I've talked to a lot of people, and that's pretty much the first thing that comes up when my name comes up. Like, oh, here we go. I go to a church at Abundant Life in Largo. I'm very happy. I've been there for years. My wife is a devout Christian. My in-laws are devout Christians. I've always found myself in a weird place with religion. But with that being said, I also have a deeper understanding of religion. I've studied religions. And I think it's time for someone to negotiate before we don't have anything to negotiate with.
He was talking about them as if they were a them. Mm-hmm. And me and Mike Rinder went up to him afterwards and spoke to him, and it was very obvious he's not a Scientologist. And yet all the accurate reporting that has been done could very easily lead one to believe that he is. At least 3 or 4 of the candidates said, do you know what the solution is? If you're not a Scientologist, come downtown. They said, look, even Frank Hibbard, I was really surprised that he used this language. I wondered if he regrets doing so. He said, look, there's plenty of restaurants and bars not owned by Scientologists. Mm-hmm. Go to those. And that's exactly why you and I do these videos.
Right.
That is why we started doing these videos. It wasn't to talk about your campaign. In fact, we started doing these videos before you decided to run. It was to show all of these great places in downtown Clearwater that if me and Mark can come in here, not only come in here, but be given permission to video an interview. If we can come here, anyone can come here, and we implore you to, because the real way to make downtown busy and active and successful and prosperous is just to come back, because the alternative is an empty storefront. That's the alternative, and that's what we want to avoid.
So until next time, we'll see you at markbunker.com, where you can make a donation right now. Thank you.
Bye.